Good, good afternoon, Camilla. I think you're just in the process of joining. We're now streaming live on Facebook.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. So.
Okay, I'm doing it from mobile today because I don't know what's going on with my home internet.
Oh, I had an issue on a couple of days ago, actually Friday, a little bit around that. So we have a connection and I can see you well and I can hear you. And we've invited a few people. So we are Facebook Live right now.
Awesome.
It's all good. I took a few minutes in advance. I think I may just get more into the habit of doing that. But I'm really happy to have you right now, Camilla. And I have crisis and hope for some reason keeps popping into my head. We're in a crisis, but oh gosh, we have so much hope.
We do. We do. Hopefully we do.
Yes, we do. It's I didn't mean to bring you right into this, but I just felt, you know what? It's first of all, for everybody who's watching, and we'll get better at monitoring and we're learning how to work 3 tools at the same time. But for everybody who's watching, and as we're kind of coming into almost past a month of where we are, and we know that this is our new norm. So I'm very much, and I prefer to be more optimistic because I do have, we all have that ability to decide, do we want to stay on the negative or on the positive?
Got it.
I prefer to be on the positive, and the more that I stay on the positive, the more content and happy, and the feeling is incredible. No matter what's going on, no matter, we're in a crisis, we're in this, we're in that, but we only have this moment right now. And it's just really exciting, Camilla, to have you with us and continue to share how we continue to stay on the positive.
Well, you mentioned staying positive, and I know that we've been talking a lot about mindfulness during this COVID crisis. And so what comes to mind for me is serotonin. So some of you have heard about it. Most of you probably don't know what it is, but I think so. If for those that don't know me, one thing that I really like, or I stand behind, are evidence-based information. Prove it to me.
Yes.
Because if there's no information, no, how do you say, research behind it, then I tend to question. That's just who I am. I'm curious. So I read a lot of journals. I read a lot of research that's been out there. And then I even question that research. Who does it? Who funds it? Right? Yeah. So what the heck is serotonin anyway? It is a neurotransmitter that regulates brain activity and other neuropsychological processes in your body. But what most people don't know about serotonin is that it's primarily found outside the brain, outside of the central nervous system. See, most people think, or they make the connection rather, serotonin and brain, because it regulates a lot of brain activity. Yes?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. But most of it is actually found in your digestive system.
Wow. I did not. Okay.
Yeah, most people don't know that.
Didn't know that. Nope.
The reason I'm bringing this up is because when you say crisis and hope, what comes to mind is, what can we be doing in a natural way to help ourselves, right? Yeah. Because a lot of what's been talked about in the news is is about the people that are dying, the number of deaths. But there is very little information on how do you boost your immune system? What can you do for your mental health? Mm-hmm. Right? And so serotonin comes to mind for me. So let's talk a little bit about serotonin. So what it is, it's a chemical that is produced in your body, and it's made from an amino acid called tryptophan. And this amino acid enters into your body through your diet. And we're going to talk more about that in a second. Okay. So it comes in through your diet. And based on what you put into your body, it can impact the levels of serotonin in your system. Right. So now we've all heard about this through, regular mainstream media, that if you have low levels of serotonin in your body, it can lead to mood disorders such as anxiety and depression. Right. It can lead to blood clotting. There's been recent research, well, not recent, but the last 10 years, what they have found is that there is serotonin, that serotonin also impacts blood platelets, or the formation of blood platelets, right? So if you have too little serotonin in your body, then your blood cannot clot and therefore cannot heal itself. Okay. There's also difficulty in bowel movements, which makes sense, because if it's primarily found in the stomach and your intestines, right, then it's going to affect your bowel movements and function like that. Nausea. Believe it or not, if you eat something that is disturbing to your stomach, then the body produces extra serotonin to be able to push out the toxins, if you will, in your digestive system, and it comes out in the form of diarrhea. Right. So serotonin is responsible for that. Many people know this as well, that, the fluctuations in serotonin affect your libido, like your interest in sex. Right. So that's important. And the last one that's also really important is your sleep-wake cycle. So fluctuations in serotonin can create insomnia. Okay. And that becomes like the cycle of depression and anxiety. You don't sleep, you don't feel good, you're already feeling low, you're already feeling anxious, and now you're going to feel even more anxious and more sad and depressed because you're not getting enough rest.
All connects. It all connects. It all connects. So I think for everybody, for those that are watching, Camilla, is and for those that may not necessarily be aware of how all these different things connect, kind of going back to mind, body, and soul. Well, serotonin being, it's a science-based, it's proven based, it's part of your anatomy. But what I'm really hearing is, well, first, I didn't know it lived outside of the brain. Number two, I didn't realize that it was part of our digestive system. But what I'm also really hearing is just how powerful it is with what it's able to do to get negative, to push stuff out of our system that shouldn't be there, if you will. We're all human, so we have an input and an output.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. And there's also a slew of other things that come on with the with increased anxiety and depression, and that's drug and alcohol addiction, right? So many people self-medicate that way. I used to think that people growing up with the stigma in my family, I was taught that people that were addicted to drugs and alcohol were bad people and they had all these issues. But, in reality, there are many, many people that are addicted to drugs and alcohol. I'm not saying that, people that don't have trauma in their background don't have this as well. I'm just saying that there are many people that don't have trauma in their backgrounds and still become addicted to drug and alcohol. And that's because of their levels of serotonin. Like they have anxiety and depression, and that's how they deal with it.
Yeah.
Here's another interesting fact. While low levels of serotonin impact your body, there's something called high levels of serotonin. And if you have high levels of serotonin, you actually have problems as well, right? And one of them is osteoporosis. So with increased levels of serotonin in your body, you get weakened bones. And that, is not a good thing. And there's also some tumors that get created from increased levels of serotonin. Now, I want to, just put out there that I'm not a physician. I'm not a medical doctor by any means. I just do a lot of research and I like to learn a lot of things. So if you suspect for yourself that you've got an imbalance of some kind, it's really important to speak to your doctor. You can get a test. In a blood test, you can discover what your levels of serotonin are. Yeah. So, talk to your doctor about that. Do you fall within the range of what's considered normal?
And Camilla, I thank you immensely for sharing that, because I kind of, if I have a philosophy and I say to people, if I can do it, anybody can do it. Because I can remember a number of years ago, you know, we call it communication, right? How do we communicate? How do we, you want to, and when you're, um, in my scenario, and this was a number of years ago, um, it was just, it was at a point in time where we knew that when anytime you're having a challenge or anxiety where you feel like you can't breathe or whatever, well, what was our thing? You go to the doctor first, you share with them, and they then can refer you. So I've always been a believer in being very resourceful. And we don't, for those that specialize, just Camilla, you are an expert in your domain. You are a psychotherapist. You are, you have studied, you have, there's, um, this is your area of expertise. When I look at other, like if I think for a lawyer that studies and specializes in criminal law, that's their area of expertise. So I'm not going to try and become the doctor. I'm going to go to those that have already studied, know it.
Right.
I want the truth, but I want to be very resourceful about it. And in this kind of, what you're sharing, Camilla, and where we are, this was a number of years ago. I remember where we took that step, and I took that step. There was just things that were not feeling right. And what did we do? We reached out for help. But as we reached out for help, if you will, it was just learning how to better communicate, how to better. And I remember going through tests and so forth on, do we have this? Do we have this? Do we have this? So it's just being resourceful, where we sit back, Camilla, and we don't do anything, or we just talk to our friends, which is wonderful. It's a great place to start. But if we're still feeling this way, I just want everybody to know how important this is, Camilla, to realize if you're feeling like, you have just your energy doesn't feel right, or how do I cope? Or you start to fall into that, oh my goodness, how many more people are dying? And we know this is not a great state, but what about all the hope that's out there? What about all the people that are surviving? What about just staying focused on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And the good news today is that there is an overlap with the medical model and mental health. And we are finding, which I absolutely love, is that many doctors, while they can prescribe, some of them are holding off on prescribing and saying, let's do some psychotherapy. Let's do some counseling first. Let's see if we can, impact the way that you think. And let's see if that makes a difference. And if it doesn't, we can always, fall back on medication. And I'm going to talk a little bit about, treatment as well, because during this time, what we are finding is that, we're being told by the media is, don't go to your doctor, don't talk to, don't do things that are not essential, not necessary, hold off on things. So many people are finding that they're dealing with anxiety and depression alone in their home. They're not even calling their doctor. I don't know why. Many doctors are available. They want to hear from you. If you've got issues, you've got stuff going on. A lot of them will talk to you over the phone and decide whether or not you need to come in. And if they've known you for 20, 30 years, I don't know, because I haven't seen this, but maybe they'll even prescribe something. You just go to the pharmacy and pick it up. And a lot of them will continue seeing in office. So it's important that you be in communication with your physicians if you're starting to feel like this anxiety is something that you can't grab a hold of.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, and because so your physicians are essential services, Camilla. So
Absolutely.
I know that, and it wasn't that long. We were caught into this where we were doing our annual medicals right when COVID kind of reared its head, and here would go. So my, do I go? Do I don't go? I'm like, well, if Dr. Sen is that we go, and you have your precautions and so forth, but things like they're taking calls. I'm aware that some physicians, Camilla, they may set up a Zoom call. They may, but they want you to connect with them, because things are adjusting, but things are not stopping. But we absolutely want to be as grounded and balanced and positive as possible, because it's hope that's getting us through this. We'll make adjustments, and it'll be the new norm for a while, but things won't just stop. We can help ourselves as well.
And I'm glad that you said that, Michelle, because if anything gets said today, it's the message of that we can help ourselves, that there are things that we can do, and that we're not doomed by staying at home. Absolutely not.
Yeah. And
Absolutely not.
I'm as I said, continue this. I'm so super excited that you're with us 3 times a week, because I continue want to, and I am going to find a way that we can kind of pull people or pull questions in, because I know, Camilla, that there's a lot of people out there that they might, it's not sometimes what we say, it's what we don't say.
Right. Right.
Silence.
Well, so if if serotonin is, it's like this really important chemical in our body, and it reduces depression, it regulates anxiety, it heals our wounds, it stimulates nausea, it maintains good bone health, it regulates sleep, it helps with with digestion. So, it's such an important neurotransmitter that we should be paying more attention to it. Because when your serotonin levels are normal or in the normal range, you feel happy, you feel calm, you feel more focused, you're less anxious, you're emotionally stable. Now, would you not agree that those are all good things?
All good things.
All good things, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about how do you deal with treating a serotonin deficiency, and you would feel that there's a deficiency in your body if you've got any of those symptoms that we've talked about. So there's three ways, two ways. There's medication, and then there's a natural way, right? So if we're going to look at medication, there's a class of medication called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs, as most people know them as. And it's most of them are prescribed as antidepressants, and people know them in lay terms as Zoloft or Prozac, if you've heard of that medication, right? And what that medication does is it blocks the reabsorption of serotonin in your body, so that you can have higher levels floating around. Okay. So that we can have all the benefits that we want. Again, it's very important that you follow the prescribed doses. Do not self-medicate by taking extra, more than or less than, because there are some serious repercussions if you don't do that. Okay, so whatever your doctor has prescribed, if you find that the dosage is giving you adverse effects, please, 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 I cannot stress this enough, talk to your doctor about that, and then the dosing will be regulated or adjusted. Now, outside of medications, the second part would be hormone therapy.
Yeah.
Estrogens also affect your mood. And we see this mostly in women through postpartum depression or mood disorders at menopause, right? So your levels of estrogen also affect your mental health.
Yeah. Speaking from walking with that experience.
Yeah. We can all say that.
Yep. So a little better now. But a couple years ago, it was starting to show up a little bit more than I wanted it to. But just as you said, Camilla, and it was I think for me, even more diet because I'm a little bit more, if I don't have to take anything, I won't. But at the same breath, if I have to, I'll choose natural first. But you are so accurate on that. And I think it's so important for us. I think it's so important for women. Men go through it differently, but there's still something they may go through, but it's just really important for us to pay attention to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm like you. I prefer the natural approach first, but I can say that there are if your levels have dipped too much, it doesn't matter how much of the natural you do, it's going to be very difficult to get into the normal ranges. So you may need, hormone therapy or medication to help you get into that normal range. Yeah. And again, that is a conversation to have with your doctor to see which path is right for you, right? Because most of us, as you know, as women, we wait until the last minute.
Oh, we were the
So,
last ones to take care of ourselves because it's, just a little
uh-huh.
bit of everybody else. And no, I'm strong, I'm strong. And then all of a sudden we're kind of, why do we feel this way?
Yeah,
And
it's like you're drowning and you don't even know you're drowning until you're like done, right?
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
good. And just to comment on the clinical depression. So I have a brother of mine who's very open. And, I'm so proud of how far he's come because he was diagnosed about, I think, 17, 18 years ago with clinical depression. And you are 1,000% correct. It's you start with your physician and you have to be resourceful. And there were times where he'd have to come off to get and then slowly go back on. And where he's now in his life, I'm so proud of him. He's my older brother, and but just he's open to talk about it, work with it, and it's he's just in such a good place right now. But being more aware of what he has to do to maintain that.
Yeah. And, I also want to say, while there are many, many wonderful physicians out there, the people that are best knowledgeable or most knowledgeable about mental health medications are psychiatrists. They have really studied and specialized in that. And so, I mean, I don't, you need to know your relationship with your family doctor and what they specialize in. And if you find that your family doctor isn't as knowledgeable or doesn't know, or maybe they even tell you, the best thing to do is get a referral to a psychiatrist. Now, I know in Ontario, getting a referral can be as long as 8 months or more. Don't worry about that. Just get on the list and go. Because if you say, oh my God, it's going to be 8 months, I'm never going to get in, then by the time you decide that you actually want to do it, a year and a half goes by, and now it's even
Right.
worse. So just
Correct.
get on the list
Correct.
and do the referral and follow the instructions, and you'll
Yeah.
be fine. But so going back to your crisis and hope, why am I talking about this serotonin is because I want to talk about the natural options that you can have. So yes, speak to the medical community regarding whether or not you want to do hormone therapy or medication or anything like that if you find your anxiety is just over the top. But there are things that you could do naturally, and we're going to talk about that. And this is information that I want you to know, it's been published in the Journal of Psychiatry and Neuroscience. So there is research behind what I'm going to say. This
Wow.
isn't something like people made it up
Nope.
and decided that it was a good idea. Okay. So the first one is being outside, natural sunlight. The increase in vitamin D, very, very important, especially if you suffer from seasonal depression. Now, in countries like, Canada or Russia or the northern countries that we don't have a lot of sunlight most of the year, some people buy lights and they do what's called light therapy. So you have light therapy in your home. So anything to do with sunlight, light therapy impacts your mood.
Yeah.
Okay,
My
so
brother,
that's really
very
your
my
brother.
brother has that. It's and it does make it works.
Yeah, it does.
It
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, absolutely. Even why we've been told to stay indoors, but get outside as often as you can. Whether it's in your backyard. I mean, yesterday was such a beautiful day here that we put out our what do you call it, our lawn chairs, and we were on
Yes,
the veranda and we were outside soaking up the sun.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
It's and I think too, there's just there are all these things that we can do. My mom is 79, so we're doing the grocery shop. She's not allowed out, but she did say 2 days ago, talked with her, and she said, I went out. Of course, my first thought was, please don't tell me you went to a store. 'Cause,
Mm.
but no, she goes, on my balcony. She lives on the 18th floor. And I felt so good, but she just went outside and sat on her chair and just took in the fresh air. And it was starting to affect her just being inside.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We need to, and I'm not saying going out means, going out to the store. It just be outside. Be outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Exercise. I know we've talked a lot about exercise in the last couple of, I guess, conversations that we've had, but I want to talk about the science behind exercise. So we've talked about, or people do know about, endorphins, right? Like when you
Yes.
exercise, it increases your endorphin levels in your body. And endorphins typically, so first of all, endorphins have been shown to impact depression. So that's a good thing. It impacts your mood. But here's the other thing, and I don't know that people know this. Endorphins typically last about 24 hours in your body. So what does that mean? It means that if you are exercising, like cardio exercising 2 times a week, you are not going to benefit from the levels of endorphins in your body. You need to be exercising every other day in order to keep your endorphin levels at a range where it would impact your mood. Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense. For those that may not be aware, Camilla, many years ago, I kind of got into fitness and got into teaching. But I always felt that if I didn't do it at least 3 or 4 times a week, I could feel how different I would feel. So it just became, I have to do it to make me feel good. I have to do it to make, so I would train my brain over. And that is what became kind of my magic pill, if you will, not realizing until, years later, my goodness, that is what I need. Like I have to have that, just like you get up and just like you have to eat. I've got, even if it's just walking, speed walking, but if I don't, and I have gone through a couple of scenarios where I fell off the wagon, and you feel it. And you just know the difference of what you feel like when you do versus what you feel like when you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important this is why they say regular exercise, regular consistent exercise. So every other day, if not every day, if you can do every day, and when we say consistent regular exercise, it doesn't need to be an hour and a half, at least 20 to 30 minutes. I mean, 20 to 30 minutes infused into your day as a regular routine will literally impact and stabilize your moods.
Yeah.
So if that's not, something that you can have control over, I don't know what is.
Even honestly, even if you have to walk up and down your stairs
that's true.
You can do that. Or we do have a home gym. Like it's something that we just built up over the years. But timing. And so I made sure that this was one of the first, I follow your health is your wealth in the morning through the High Five Club. So it was actually them that kind of inspired me because I was down to 2 days a week, Camilla. And I knew it wasn't right, but there was just a lot of stuff that I had to get through, but I forced myself. My 2 days finally got back to 3 days a week. And so today I did a walk. That's it. I had no more than 20 minutes, but I made sure I was doing that 20-minute speed walk.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We've also talked about meditation and mindfulness. And so why is that important? Because not only does meditation and mindfulness help relieve stress, but it also, thinking positively, here's another science thing, thinking positively increases your serotonin levels. Did you know that?
So I'm going to just repeat back, because what I just heard, that could be, if people just literally make a choice to, and rather don't get into, the too much detail in the thought, but they just simply want to they want to feel positive. They can think about, even think about a memory, think about something that it was the most happiest time in their life, and just stay on that thought. And it works for me. I've done that, where it gets me into that positive frame of thinking. And I just want to hold on to that thinking. So if I hold on to that thinking, then I'm going to be more in a positive, and therefore what's happening? My body's producing more serotonin. Serotonin is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. And it's not about, look, I think most people have difficulty, including myself, thinking positive all day long. I almost think it's impossible to do. So if you're thinking positively in spurts or at moments throughout the day, then that's good too. Right?
Good.
Yeah. The other thing is diet. Let's talk about diet.
Yes.
Right? So, how can we increase our serotonin levels through our diet? Because as we've mentioned, most of the serotonin levels are produced in your digestive system, your stomach and your intestines, right?
Yes.
So there are certain foods that boost serotonin levels. This includes eggs, cheese, turkey, some red meats, nuts, salmon, tofu, pineapple. Right now, obviously, keep in mind if you've got allergies, you're going to have to deal
Yeah.
with that. But this is just
No
a
nuts.
general, yeah. And you can look,
Yeah.
you could research these things on Google, right? Go on the computer and say, what are the foods that boost serotonin levels? And now, my doctor used to always say, Camilla, you'd have to eat these things in bucketfuls and bushelfuls of to get the full effect. But I understand what she was saying, but I also believe that it's not about having a bushel full of nuts in one day. No, it's about increasing your levels slowly with time. So let's say if you're starting to eat seeds and nuts and increasing your intake of dairy, now obviously I know there people are going to kill me for this one, or they're going to criticize me saying, "No, Camilla, dairy is bad for you." I'm not talking about overdoing it on the dairy, but there are certain foods that will increase your serotonin levels. And if you notice after a week there's no effect, I would say a week isn't long enough. We
Yes.
need to do several weeks or several months of having these nutrients in our body.
Makes sense. I have a question, and you may or may not be able to answer this. But have you heard of acidophilus?
Acidophilus, yes, it's a probiotic, is it not?
Yes. Yeah. Does that have any correlation? I know, like, we we have it in our house. So acidophilus and wild oregano oil are the two things that we
Mhm.
tend to keep in our house. But acidophilus it was more of a for your intestine, like boosting immunities. But I'm just curious if you've ever heard any, because I know it's really more for the digestive system.
Well, I mean, I'm not a gut health expert by any means, but I would assume that if your gut health is good, then you could absorb the necessary nutrients that you're putting into your system.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I mean, I take probiotics as well. Probiotics and zinc are part of our staple right now during this crisis, and it's for the purpose of boosting your immune system. So we're doing it for that, not necessarily for boosting serotonin levels.
But you know what? So it has a double benefit, is
Yeah,
what I'm hearing.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
and I know too, just from kind of former background years ago, being in fitness and bodies, and everybody has different chemistry systems. Like you said, some people have
Mhm.
allergies, some people don't. So it's just a matter of them sourcing and then finding what might be right for them. But I think what I'm really hearing, Camilla, is too, just like you say, serotonin is, this is real. It's real. It's not, so people are feeling um, unsettled. And I know we can see this with a lot of our frontline workers. And
Yes.
this is a crisis, and this is an area, Camilla, that you specialize in. You're accredited in this industry. So and I love working with people that come from, I love working with all people, but Camilla, these are areas when you're coming from best practice and you've practiced this, you've been in crisis management before, you're you're you have you're coming from experience. I know we had conversation in past, Camilla, with what you were able to do, like when 9/11 happened, when SARS happened. And we need, people will need guidance. And sure, the media is out there and they're going to share what they're going to share. But when you were able to share from best practice, accreditation, and this is kind of what to do, like what people can do, people can take control. And that's what we're asking. We're, the this thing that we call COVID, well, we're the host, so we actually can take control. We can help ourselves, but we can only help ourselves with the right information.
Absolutely. And again, you've said something really brilliant. Anxiety comes from a lot of when we you focus on things that you cannot control. And then of course, panic attack ensues from there. What there is to focus on what you do have control over. So what do you have control over? You can control over how many times you wash your hands, not touching your face. Whether you're going to go to the store or not go to the store, how much you exercise, what you're going to ingest. These are all the things that you have control over. And if you focus on that, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, which why we love you, Camilla, and why we just it's just a blessing to have you. on. And with that being said, and I'm not sure, some people are working Mondays, some people are off, some people are home. So just really, really happy that you took your time out today to be with us.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, Michelle, just want to say you're a blessing in my life.
Thank you.
I appreciate everything that that you're doing and helping bring this conversation out to the public.
Wonderful. More to come. More to come. So have an awesome Monday and enjoy. Is it sunny where you are, Camilla?
It's a bit overcast. I'm hoping the sun will peek its head at some point.
Okay. Well, it's 17 degrees, so that's a plus. A little warmer than it has
Absolutely.
been. Yes.
I'll
Okay.
take it.
All right. Well, have an awesome balance of your day. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.